Hey guys, my name is Jay over at Firebrand Media, and today we're going to talk about how much do companies spend on video production at their events. So it's the age-old question: what's your budget? But no. At the end of the day, it's important to factor in the budget. Um, Typically, we've seen smaller events do under $5,000. We've seen mediate to moderate events do around 10 or 15, and we've seen larger events do 30 to 40, even $50,000 for their conference productions. Factors that can change those numbers is dependent on the amount of days that we're in the field. And what I mean by the field is days that we're on the conference floor. It could be like a 3-day event, 4-day event, right? And they're only needing one camera for, let's say, 4 hours of each day of that event. That would obviously be a lower budget event production. But let's say if it's a 1-day event and they have 5 or 6 cameras on the floor, 2 of those are photo cameras roaming, capturing, the hugs, handshakes, and kisses, and one's doing a step and repeat portfolio for all the headshots for the company, and we got 3 camera angles in the main stage, and we got 2 cameras on breakout sessions. You could see how the production value is a lot different from those 2 examples. Typically in small budget productions or event productions, for businesses or companies wanting to spend on video production, you'll see that they focus on the time that's spent on the floor, being that, hey, we have 4 hours for this keynote and then you're done for the day, and vice versa. They'll want to maximize, and the way they can maximize on the video production footprint is being strategic with their schedule or their run of show with the video production company. Something I ask companies that have smaller budgets is putting together a run of show, giving us a dynamic run of show that will help us move from event to event or sequence of events from A to Z easily. Being that if I have a team of guys, or let's say 1 camera on sticks focused on the main stage, and I need them to run over to a breakout session to capture the tail end of it, as well as some of the B-roll of guests interacting with the guest speaker on stage. I'd like to know so that I can get that movement happening within 5 or 10 minutes prior to the keynote ending at the main stage. The reason why is because we got to set up, change the settings on the camera. We've got to dial it in. Maybe we want to switch a lens. Those are important factors with trying to maintain a smaller budget. Now, for our moderately priced events, what we'd ask you to focus on is the intent for deliverables. So if the deliverables are calling for, let's say, an event recap, and it needs, let's say, 10 to 12 man on the street testimonials, the intent of those post-production assets is going to be what we plan in the field or on the conference days. We want to make sure that we're deliberate with our time, and that we're just not getting a bunch of beauty shots, or we're not just sitting in the back of the room on sticks or on a tripod. We want to make sure we're moving, and we respond to those deliverables. So for moderate events, it's very important that we focus on the post-production features first, like headshots and let's say keynotes. We need 2-angle keynote cut downs, and we need so many testimonials, or we want to focus on reels. Well, when we go to shoot that, we have the post in mind as a production company, so we can maximize our time on site if we know what we're shooting, and we're strategic with it. So those are for your moderately priced production event productions. Now, for video production event productions in the larger tier, or let's say large events, it's important to focus on communication. So in those larger events that we've shot and that we've filmed, a lot of the times accessibility to that leadership and the people who are making calls on site, which we dedicate a point of contact. That's our POC within our proposal structure. We want to know who that point of contact is, who is their right hand man, or who's going to be dealing with this. Or let's say we need live editing on site, or we got live live production. When I say live production, I mean like streaming production in tandem with creating video assets. We want communication to be a very smooth process, because when the production lacks communication, it suffers on the amount that it takes back home. In live streams, and I hate to bring up live streams, But in larger events where you see multiple parts of production, like photography happening while videography is happening, and maybe you got elements of live streaming happening at the same time, you want to make sure that if you have a stream issue, that point of contact and the solving the issue is a seamless process. For an example, we've shot an event where the client had a live stream happening for remote viewers. Something that I brought up in the pre-planning production meetings for that communication factor because of the budget and size of the conference was having preloaded assets in case of a stream error. We wanted to create infomercials or little commercial slots just in case we needed to pip it into the live stream for a technical error. Some of these hotels in different states and different countries, whatever you have or wherever you're at, may not have the best bandwidth or might not have a solid stream a secure connection. So we often run into bottlenecks or challenges with streams, and a great way to mitigate that is by communicating to the point of contact or the leadership on site in ways that we can effectively resolve the issue fast. When we were at that conference, we had an interruption in the service, and the way that we were able to regain that service within minutes was by pipping in a broadcast or something that we've already pre-created for that case. And when that happened, we were able to bring the stream back into play. We lost no viewers for that stream, and we were able to meet the needs of the client, and they were happy with that adjustment on site. So communication for larger events is probably your more important things. I would say budget is not so much a factor when dealing with bigger numbers. It's just communicating effectively with the leadership and your point of contact. Now, your point of contact on site for larger events could be someone in the marketing department. It could be let's say your company has hired an event coordinator. It could be anybody. We work with pretty much everyone across the board, whether it's the AVI department for the hotel or if we're tapped in with the digital marketing director of the company. We want to make sure we're hitting all the needs and that we're following a run of show strategically, and we're not wasting time on site with people on standby. What do I mean by that? Again, the run of show changes. Let's say, it got pushed back an hour, and lunch, they cut lunch. And so they're wanting to move the keynotes down the row, or they wanted to squeeze in the keynote or push lunch a little later because, the crowds are moving a little bit slower that day on day 2 of the event. And so that puts my whole team of videographers in a bind where they're just kind of sitting around or they're just shooting beauty shots. Well, we've designated a lot of time for B-roll and pickup shots. I would rather our team strategically try to handle the deliverables a different way. Maybe we can put 2 guys in the atrium near the food hall or near the banquet and the what do they call those things? Buffet tables, to where, people who are done eating could step to the side and really give us, their thoughts and feelings about the last keynote and how on fire the guest speaker was. There's so many ways that you can get more out of your production, and pricing does matter. Whether it's a low tier production and you've got one camera angle and that's all, and you can't really afford the photography element of your event production, or let's say you've got, money is not I'm not saying that, but budget is not a problem. They all have their focuses, and being strategic with a run of show or focusing with the post-production deliverables on site, or whether it's communicating and being very effective communicating on site with the company's leadership and the point of contact, they all require some amount of work to make sure that the production runs smooth. If you have any questions about pricing, or if you're just interested in how these things work, feel free to give us a call at Firebrand Media. We'd love to help you.